Hi folks, I'm Dr. Jim Kaminsky from Fergus Family Chiropractic, and I just want to talk to you today about raking. This is the season where leaves are plentiful, more than we want to, and the most important thing is raking. So if you're choosing to rake, which a lot of people will do, there's a number of things you need to know. Number one, you need to make sure you warm up before you're raking. So do a 5-minute brisk walk, do side bends, some twists, not extreme, but some twists. Just get the muscles warmed up before you actually start doing your raking. Another thing you need to be aware of is also choosing your rake. You have to choose a rake that's the right size for you. This one I choose because I believe it's the right size for me. You never want to choose one that's too small or too short, because then you're really reaching, which we don't want you to have to do. What we want also is to have a rake that's the right size so you can keep the work closer to you. Another thing you want to be aware of also is the fan of the rake. You want the fan of the rake to be relatively wide, but not so wide that when you're actually pulling the leaves towards you, it's a heavy load. Another thing to be aware of with the rake is we want a rake that is strong and sturdy, not something weak that's you're going to be working like crazy at to try to pull the leaves in. Now, when we talk about raking itself, a couple of things you want to be aware of. Number one is your posturing while you're raking. You want to maintain an upright posture. You don't want to be leaning a lot to pull the work in. The other thing too is you want to make sure that when you are raking, you're switching sides, not just sticking with one side. I'm going to just demonstrate here how I would actually approach the raking, and this is a technique that many people who do landscaping use. They'll keep it very close to themselves. So basically, I'm starting from one side. I'm pulling the leaves in towards me, not going too crazy. A little bit of rotation in the torso, so we're getting some rotation but not bending. So, right, as we go through, pulling the work in towards us. I will switch sides now, working the muscles the other way. That's basically how it goes until you get the chance to get them all together. I also recommend using a tarp when you're actually raking. You can rake the leaves onto the tarp, then take the tarp and pull it towards where you want to dump them, whether it be in a garden or if you're going to put them into a bag, put the bag on the ground, kind of roll the tarp into the bag and dump the leaves in that way. A lot easier than you doing multiple times of lifting and bending. When you're moving the bags to the curb, make sure the bags are not too heavy that you are going to strain to try to lift them. Sometimes getting somebody to help you lift might not be a bad idea. Another thing you need to be aware of as well is that when you are raking, you need to take frequent breaks. Don't just go for 2 hours doing the same thing. It'd be hard on your back, and believe me, you'll pay for it. Another thing to be aware of also is hydration. One thing we tend to do often is not hydrate enough while we're exercising. Raking is exercise, so make sure you hydrate. So folks, that's my recommendations on raking. Another thing I want to mention just as a PS, if you choose not to rake, the other options are you can use a leaf blower. Make sure if you use a leaf blower that the pack has a waist belt so it keeps it tight to you, and you don't want it too heavy behind you. The second thing you can do, which is probably what I would tend to do, is I would actually use a lawnmower. Sometimes you can mulch the leaves, it actually acts as fertilizer for the grass, but you can also use a bagger, which means you can collect them into a bag and then you can dump them that way. So folks, those are the important points about raking leaves. All I want to say is have fun this fall on raking, and be careful.